The Science of Society with Elder Darryl Waistline Mitchell. So from our last show, we had a few questions come in, and so the first one was, shouldn't all scientific theory advance beyond its foundation? Marxist theory should evolve beyond the 19th century. What are your thoughts on that, Elder? Should we take Marxism and advance on it? Should we be developing our scientific theory to a higher degree?
Well, yeah, we should. And Marxism has advanced. In the 170 years since the Communist Manifesto, Marxism has advanced dramatically. And it's a whole series of books in the public sphere available. In fact, there are no revolutions that have taken place in the last 100 years that were not deeply influenced by the theory and doctrine of Marxism. It has advanced. In fact, in America, the United States, we have authors that have advanced Marxism. In fact, you know, like when we look at this thing, we have people like in the Russian Revolution, like V.I. Lenin. It's understood he advanced Marxism. You have people like Chairman Mao Zedong in China. He has advanced Marxism. You have a whole Soviet history that advanced Marxism. In fact, they created an encyclopedia of Marxism that consists of maybe 50 books. What I'm trying to describe is that perhaps the person who asked the question is not familiar with the literature. I would like to use as a reference, the name of the book is The Fundamentals of Philosophy by Alexander Spirkin, S-P-I-R-K-I-N-S. Fundamentals of Philosophy by Alexander Spirkin. It was the last philosophy book to come out of the Soviet Union before it collapsed and was overthrown. It was published in 1989. You can find that online. Type it in, put it in PDF, and you can find it online, probably for free. In terms of just historical continuity, there's also the textbook of Marxist philosophy that was issued by the Leningrad Institute in 1938. Then if you go to the website called Institute for the Study of the Science of Society, you'll find 10 to 12 papers that update and tell you what was updated in Marxism. For instance, when we talk about social revolution, we're talking about qualitative changes in the means of production. We're talking about how a new technological regime or complex is birthed in antagonism, not contradiction, in antagonism with the old social order. That way of viewing things is an update of the science of Marxism. And I'm trying to stress this, that it has been updated dramatically. Anybody that just go online and type in Marxism, you will come up literally with thousands of books. Literally thousands. I'm not exaggerating to say that. But I think a place that you can start is, if you just want to read a Marxist newspaper, Rally Comrades. Literally, that's the name of the paper, Rally Comrades. You know, and it has back issues that you can just scan and see. Then you can go to a site called Anti-Revisionism Online. It's part of Marxism.org. They have the history of the so-called new communist movement of the 60s and 70s, and they have compiled a lot of the literature and publications from that period of time. It is a library, an encyclopedia of literature available on the subject of updating the science of Marxism. You know, but that, I mean, the ask of the question, right, needs access to some of this stuff. And the question is asked is partly asked out of our failure to be able to make all this literature and stuff available to the public. But I've been talking with some comrades and stuff, and we hope to create a platform where we can republish a lot of this material. Then, of course, you have the material that written by and orchestrated by comrade, well, Dr. actually, Takei Kilimanjaro. his material is outstanding.
Yeah,
It literally updates the theory of Marxism.
the University of Kemet Press.
I mean, his update of Marxism is phenomenal because he built upon some of the update from the 80s and 70s. I mean, in fact, I got in front of me right now a book called African Time. And it is from the beginning of the universe to 1896. And he literally traces the path of development of science and philosophy and stuff. So, I mean, it's, you know, I try and come up with a list of books and stuff because it's hard to remember the stuff when you just listen to it.
Understood. I think this argument hinges around the idea that from a social contextual standpoint, Marx saw the end of feudalism and the rise of capitalism. And then you did say that Lenin advanced and then Mao advanced even further. We're coming into a new stage in our social evolution. And the question is, what social theory is going to carry us into the next revolution, the technological revolution?
You know, I have a different language. You know, what Lenin added to the Marxist doctrine was a strategy that could be deployed by a group to carry out a successful insurrection and seize power. In terms of the general category called the science of society, Lenin didn't revolutionize that, but he did revolutionize the doctrine of class war, as did Mao Zedong. Now, in terms of the theoretical advancement, a good book to start with is not called The Future is Up to Us. It came out in 2001. The author is Nelson Perry. You can get it online for free now. Type in PDF. Look in that book. It will tell you what's advanced. You will see it and hear it as it describes the revolutionary process taking place in America right now, today. It's
And
there
that's
in that
Nelson
book.
Perry.
Nelson Perry, absolutely. Now, we are entering new territory in the sense that society has never advanced to robotics before. So a lot of things we're going to have to figure out in the flesh in terms of how to fight out the struggle. That, the doctrine of how to get free, that's different than the science of Marxism. The science of Marxism deals with how society is constituted, its moving parts, the things that make it a society in the first place. What's meant by classes and how people come together to reproduce social life daily. That's what the science does. The doctrine is how to thump, how to fight, how to defeat your enemy and stuff, you know. But I mean, no, I don't have a roadmap to tell you what you need to do tomorrow. Life doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that.
Let's dig into that a little bit more. You said the science of how to thump, the science of how to fight. Take that a little further. Explain that a little bit further
like,
for me.
See, at each stage, and Marxism has these wonderful words. Let me say it like this. Each quantitative stage of history, each quantitative stage of history produces its own set of relations, that require an approach and doctrine specific to it. What that means is that the Henry Ford stage of the Industrial Revolution was a specific quantitative stage of development of the Industrial Revolution. It was different than the 1890s. It was different because the machinery was more advanced and was changed, more complex, and Henry Ford invented the assembly line. What changed is he brought together thousands of workers under one roof. So the doctrine of class combat changed from craft unionism, which was based on skilled labor, to industrial unionism. The Henry Ford stage of the Industrial Revolution birthed the industrial trade union movement. Before that, the trade union movement was a syndical movement. It was a craft movement based on the hands that you did, the specific skill you had. For instance, if you were a baker, which was one of the first unions, right? If you were a baker, you built a bakers union. You couldn't join that union if you wasn't a baker. So that form of unionism is based on the identity of your hands. And incidentally, the origin of the identity movement is right here. It's within the working class, right? It grew up first in Europe, but that's the real origin. The organization of people based on their singular skill, craft unionism. With the Henry Ford stage of the Industrial Revolution, with that quantitative stage of development, where you brought together thousands of workers under one roof who performed unskilled labor, you had a basis for a broader labor movement in this organization, and it was called the Industrial Trade Union Movement. And a group of communists developed specific tactics to be used to organize the industrial workers.
I think you're segueing into our second question, which was, it was a question and more like an antagonism, I think. This sense that intellectuals and academians, the scholarly crowd, don't do nothing, sit around and pontificate.
Question. Let me hear the question.
The question itself is, what institutions have these philosophers built? What kind of work are they doing that has helped society?
Okay.
And this one, again, it hinges more on social criticism, and y'all sitting around talking about this academic stuff, but what are y'all doing? Y'all not out here in the streets actually building anything.
I mean, I understand the sentiment, and it makes me think about our history as a people, what it means to be Black in America, what it means to be a slave, what it meant for it to be against the law for you to read a book, what it meant after emancipation, after 1865, when we had an opportunity to read without being murdered. And it was like the slave population, free men, free women, that made this incredible human push for public education in America. It was important because I think today, most people we can be honest, we can admit that we live in the dumbest empire in the history of the world. We live in the dumbest empire in the history of the world. There is a contempt for knowledge and understanding in our country, and it grew up because we're in a country where you did not have to, intellectual development wasn't required. You did not have to be smart to be able to be an unskilled laborer, to make a living, to be able to take care of your family. And before then, you didn't have to have an education because you could murder an Indian and collect $10 for a woman and child and $12 for the scalp of a male Indian. Mm-hmm. What it meant was that you could take care of your family and that the scum of the fucking earth, murderers, were able to accumulate a vast fortune. And I'm saying this because the life of the mind is very important to us. Now, when you talk about what institutions was built, several was built during my lifetime, and I was part of organizations that built intellectual institutions, like the Institute for the Study of the Science of Society, because it's important that we educate each other. That's job one. Now, in my life, what we did in the practical streets, I was involved on the peripheral of the Black Panther Party in Detroit, because my primary organization was the League of Revolutionary Black Workers, who wrote an honorable chapter in American history. After that, I was involved with Equal Rights Congress, which was honorable because it was a large organization of Chicanos and Blacks in the late 70s, early 80s. Then I worked with the Southern Advocate newspaper and was helping the brothers throughout the South and stuff. And I went into Chula, Mississippi for a case. It became famous in Haiti called the case of the Chula 7. You had organizations like the Republic of New Africa that developed institutional frameworks to educate their people and establish businesses. You got Chairman O'Malley's group that have built infrastructure and organization. See, it's not a situation where we sit up just abstractly thinking, doing nothing. Only children think like that. That's the thinking of a child. Real men, real adults. We use education so that we can better understand and change the world in which we live. And I'm saying it like that because I have no mercy on people and questions that I feel disrespect the fact that they used to murder us for reading a book. We were murdered. We were hung by the necks.
Mm-hmm.
They would cut off our genitals for reading a book. So
just for
reading books is very important to us.
I feel that.
There's an element of the question. If it's directed towards this worthless intelligentsia that does nothing but serve as a lapdog for the ruling class, I get it. But when we focus it towards proletarian intellectuals and the development of a proletarian intelligentsia that can educate our people and our class in the direction in which we must fight, we need help in understanding what society is composed of. Running out in the street just gonna get us killed. Standing on the street corner hollering off the pigs gonna get us hurt. We have to master newer forms of organization. We have to study history. We got to see what worked in the past. Then we can experiment with new things, and But if you're talking to, hey, if the brother, whoever asked the question, if they're talking about the worthless intelligentsia of the ruling class, hey man, all of them, man, can jump in the lake. For the listeners, Facebook, Marxist Glossary discussion. I'm Darryl Mitchell. There's literature in the files that update Marxism. There's a Marxist glossary available in announcements that update it. I ain't talking about no fantasy stuff. This literature has been written. Taka, Kilimanjaro's, his books, these are updates, man. And his African time is like, it's outstanding. And he also has indigenous African populations. That book, the pictures in it alone is worth a fortune. And this is high quality pages and materials and photographs. It's just beautiful. And it will show you the origins of philosophy. Philosophy did not grow up in Europe. That's like wrong. The rise of Europe is less than 1,000 years. The philosophy come out of Africa 10,000 years ago. Materialist philosophy come out of Africa. Dialectics, Africa. Ooh, but see, like our white ruling class hides this from us to make us hate philosophy, to make us hate education.
I'm glad you put that on the record. You established that for the listeners, because yes, I personally, I do believe that we need to move beyond this, this idea that we can't deal with philosophy or calling it European philosophy or trying to run away from things that we got from white philosophers or whatnot. I think it is just limiting of our scope of ability. So
where did they get it from? See, if we have a concept that white people invented this stuff, that is very, very wrong. White people didn't just invent things. That's not how society develops and evolves. Philosophy emerged out of Africa 10,000 years ago. They drew pictures. It's pictures they drew on the wall, man, so that you couldn't see what was being said unmistakably. Pictures of the solar system that's 10,000 years old. White people wasn't even in existence. No, I don't want to say it like that. White people, man, and the rule of Europe is less than 1,000 years old. We're supposed to know that.
That's facts. That's facts.
I got it, man.
It's all good. It's all good. We got to establish certain things because, if we don't do it, people aren't going to get it. We're not learning. Forget learning at a higher degree. We're not learning at all. So I'm glad that you are able and willing to take this time out, break this up, break this concrete apart so that we can get through to people's minds. So Elder, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up right there. We covered some good ground on the science of society, historical materialism, advancing Marxism, and the importance of knowing that philosophy and scientific thought and thinking did not originate in Europe. It came out of Africa. So if we want to advance for all people, we always have to go back to the root. We need to learn, study, and be equipped so that we can build institutions that will last for generations and not just get us out there in the street struggling for nothing.
And as always, I appreciate you, my brother.
And until next time, Science of Society. Peace.
Peace. Yep.